All right, good afternoon. Today is the International Day of Education, and the theme is to invest in people and prioritize education. In his message for the occasion, the Secretary General urged countries to invest in supportive and inclusive learning environments so that all students can achieve their full potential and warned that without adequate investment, this potential will wither on the vine. The UN chief also stressed that it's time to end all discriminatory laws and practices that hinder access to education. He called for the de facto authorities in Afghanistan, in particular, to reverse the outrageous and self-defeating ban on access to secondary and higher education for girls. His message is online, and just to flag that once you're done with me, we will be delighted to welcome the Assistant Secretary General for Education of UNESCO, Stefania Giannini, who will be our guest to talk about the issue of Afghan girls and access to education. UNESCO has dedicated the 5th edition of this International Day of Education to the women and girls of Afghanistan. Back here in the Security Council, the head of UN mission in Haiti, Helen Lalim, reminded us that gang-related violence in the country has reached levels not seen in decades, adding that the expiration of the mandate of the last 10 senators holding office earlier this month means that there is not one elected official left in Haiti. Against this backdrop, Ms. Lalim said that two key developments, the sanctioned measures adopted by the Council last year and the National Consensus Agreement for an Inclusive Transition and Transparent Elections agreed to in December by a broad spectrum of Haiti society representatives, can meaningfully contribute to overcoming the crisis and help alleviate untold suffering. The special representative told council members that the third element that will reinforce both the Haitian National Police and these developments is the deployment of an international specialized force as requested by the government in October. She said that Haitians overwhelmingly want this assistance and that without this international deployment operating in an integrated way with the Haitian National Police, the positive effects of the political process and sanctions will remain fragile and vulnerable to being reversed. Her remarks were shared with you. Moving to Ukraine, Denise Brown, our humanitarian coordinator today, visited areas near the front lines in the Donetsk region. She held an interagency convoy that brought emergency items to small communities heavily impacted by the fighting there. She and our colleagues went to Siversk, which was shelled every day over the last 3 days, and our teams heard explosions while delivering assistance there today. Today, also, three-truck convoy brought food, hygiene items, winter clothing, solar lamps, emergency shelter kits, and medicine for some 1,700 people who remain in Siversk and neighboring communities. It is the first time we've managed to reach this area, although we'd previously sent supplies to nearby towns. Denise Brown stressed that the situation in these towns and villages is dire. Most of the 13,500 people who lived there before the war have fled, and the people who've stayed have obviously faced enormous challenges. Ms. Brown and our humanitarian colleagues saw small villages which had been destroyed, with houses and all infrastructure being destroyed. In Siversk, there is no electricity and the water supply is extremely limited. Schools and the health centers have been damaged, and the only doctor left in town is doing what she can to support the community from an improvised clinic. As we mentioned last week, our work to support the people close to the front lines will continue in the days and weeks ahead. Turning to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the Special Advisor on the Prevention of Genocide, Alice Ndiritu, reiterated her grave concern about the deteriorating situation, security and human rights situation there, particularly in Ituri province. In a statement, the Special Advisor said that civilians are being massacred based on their ethnic identity, yet again adding that the conditions necessary for the commission of atrocity crimes continues to be present in a region of genocide, where genocide happened back in 1994. She commended the ongoing efforts by the African and East African community and the African Union to negotiate steps to end the violent conflict and build a culture of sustainable peace in the region. Her full remarks are online. From Eswatini, I can tell you that the Secretary General condemns the killing of Thulani Maseko, a leading human rights lawyer and chairperson of the Multi-Stakeholder Forum, and his killing took place on the 21st of February of this year. The Secretary General takes note that the statement of the government of Eswatini assuring urgent action to bring the perpetrators to justice. He calls on all actors in Eswatini to shun violence and encourage them to engage in meaningful dialogue to reach an inclusive and lasting solution to the challenges of the country. The UN remains ready to support national and regional efforts in that regard. And from South Africa, our team there, led by the resident coordinator, Nelson Mufu, is providing support following the outbreak of measles in 5 of the country's 9 provinces. Our team on the ground is working with authorities. The WHO has deployed technical experts for active response to the outbreak, including case investigations, sensitization campaigns to prepare the public and affected provinces will launch in the next couple of weeks. For its part, the UN Children Fund continues to travel in impacted provinces, helping increase vaccinations. UN agencies continue their communication drive on social media, public health centers, local communities, and traditional media to encourage vaccination against measles. Our colleagues tell us that the next couple of weeks will be particularly critical with the reopening of schools, kicking off a new academic year. Speaking of resident coordinators, we have a new one today. Sherry Ritsena Anderson of the United States took up her post in Jordan, and that she did that on Sunday. Ms. Ritsena Anderson was appointed by the Secretary General and confirmed by the host government. Her full bio is online. We welcome her. Our colleagues in Vienna at the Office of Drugs and Crime today released a report which says that fewer victims of trafficking are being identified, even as the COVID-19 pandemic and other crises are increasing vulnerabilities to exploitation. The report states that the number of victims detected globally fell by 11% in 2020 from the previous year, driven by fewer detections in low and medium income countries. The report says that the pandemic may have weakened law enforcement capacities to detect victims, and restrictions in public places may have pushed this form of trafficking into more concealed and less safe locations, making it harder to identify victims. Just want to flag an event later this week, pegged to a number of events pegged to the International Day of the Commemoration of the Victims of the Holocaust, which is Friday. There was an event this morning for an exhibit entitled After the End of the World, Displaced Persons and Displaced Persons Camps. That's in the visitors lobby. Tomorrow afternoon, there'll be an opening for an exhibit called Fake Images, Unmask the Dangers of Stereotype, also in the visitors lobby. This Thursday, the Secretary General will participate in the opening of an exhibit entitled The Yad Vashem, Book of Names of Holocaust Victims, that will take place in the ECOSOC chamber. On Friday, the annual ceremony will be held in the General Assembly Hall. Melissa Fleming, the head of the Global Communications Department, will host. Speakers will include the Secretary General, the President of the General Assembly, the permanent representatives of Israel, the Deputy Permanent Representative of the United States. Also participating keynote speakers, Professor Deborah Dwork, Holocaust survivor Mr. Jacques Grivashever, and Professor Ethel Brooks, who, in addition to being an eminent scholar of Roma and Sinti, is also the spouse of Farhan Haq, which is also something to be very proud of. And Karen Frostig, also professor, as well, a number of musicians, and a cantor. We'll have, just to note, programming note, tomorrow's briefing schedule will change a little bit. At noon sharp, you will hear from Li Junhua, the Undersecretary General for Economic and Social Affairs, along with Shantanu Mukherjee, the Director of the Economic Analysis and Policy Division at DESA, and Hamid Rashid, the Chief of the Global Economic and Monitoring Branch of DESA. They will be here to brief you on the latest World Economic Situation Progress Report, otherwise known as WESP. Right after that, Paulina will brief, and then we may have another briefing, which I'm not yet able to confirm, around 1 o'clock. And lastly, we look up to the Great North and thank our friends in Reykjavik in Iceland for their full payment to the regular budget in full. They are on the honor roll in the 6th position. Edith.
Thank you, Steph. A couple of questions. First, does the Secretary General have any reaction to the second mass killing in California in, I think, 48 hours?
You know, I think our heart breaks for the communities in California that have been impacted by yet another senseless mass shooting, as if any of them made sense, but another tragic event. We express, of course, our condolences to the families of the victims and the communities impacted.
And a follow-up to another breaking story today, that the number of killings of journalists around the world increased by 50% in 2022, led by Ukraine, Mexico, and Haiti, according to the Committee for the Protection of Journalists.
It's a horrifying figure, one that we've been talking about repeatedly here, defending the rights of journalists to work freely without the fear of harassment or even death. And this is something that is in, I would say, almost every case, preventable. These are targeted, in many cases, in most cases, targeted killings of people who want to try to bring the truth out, and it's unacceptable.
My third and last question is,
For this round, yeah.
Foreign policy has said in an article, and I quote, sources in local and international non-governmental organizations told Foreign Policy that the UN World Food Program plans to comply with an order by the Taliban issued last month banning it and other NGOs from employing women, even though Taliban leaders have said the edict does not apply to UN agencies. Does the Secretary General have any comment on this report?
Well, first of all, I've been in touch with my colleagues at the World Food Program. That is totally untrue, right? WFP is not going to do what that report claims it's going to do. Whether it's WFP or the whole humanitarian system, and I think Martin Griffiths put it very clearly, that the UN cannot deliver humanitarian aid without the active participation of women. It is both necessary from a practical point of view and obviously also from an ethical point of view.
Just one quick follow-up. How
Yeah.
much of aid from the UN is delivered by these agencies? I believe you once said 70%?
That's a good, by NGOs?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me check what the breakdown is. But I mean, to give you an example, WFP emergency assistance to 13 million women and girls and boys has continued, through December and January. WFP is a huge operation, and the continuation is in line with the decisions jointly made by UN humanitarian agencies. Pam, if you have something to ask.
Good morning. Well, not surprising. It's a follow-up
Right.
on one of Edie's questions. Can you describe, without listing all UN agencies, but what are the restrictions that are being imposed on the UN in Afghanistan by the Taliban under this edict? And has Martin Griffiths said anything more about it? Thank you.
Martin Griffiths is currently in in Afghanistan. We've been in touch with his office. I think, as you may understand, he will likely not say anything publicly until he leaves. Look, we've all, you and I, we've all seen the edicts and the rulings put in place. What is the reason I can't answer your question in detail is that there are different implementations and different challenges depending on the provinces. It's not uniform. I can only speak for us is that our female employees remain employed and remain working. Yes, Ephraim.
Thank you, Stéphane. Quick about tomorrow, Miss Amina Mohammed. Is it going to work or not?
It will work once I announce it.
Okay, cool.
Once she tells me I can announce
so
it.
there's still hope that tomorrow we'd be able to see her.
Okay. Hope is builds the United Nations.
Okay.
Keeps us alive.
And on Lebanon, after being frozen for 13 months, the investigation into the port, again, Judge Tariq Bitar announced yesterday that he's taking it up again. Does the Secretary General support this judge who has been vilified, as we know, and demonized by all the members of the political class and who has charged many key figures in the investigation? What's the UN's
we very much welcome the reopening of the investigation. I think the Secretary General has been very clear from the start that Lebanon, the victims of the blast, the families of the victims of the blast, which include some of our colleagues, are owed a strong investigation that will lead to accountability for those who had a hand in allowing this disaster to take place.
Just quick follow-up, Stéphane. The public prosecutor is telling him that he has no jurisdiction. The public prosecutor is one of the people charged.
Look,
can the UN weigh in on this?
It's not for us to dictate how the Lebanese government goes about this investigation. I can only speak to what we would like to see, and that is a strong, open, and transparent investigation and accountability. Yes, Pam.
Has there been any request for Sima Bahous to come and speak to us
I
about
don't
the
think
same
she's
trip?
in. I mean,
Or
I
even
don't think
Yemen?
she's in. I'm not sure she's in New York, but I will check.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Unless there are any other questions, I will get our guest. Thank you.